For me, my particular method is number one, I stay ready. So my traditional keynotes, I have one major one called Bring Your Worth, which will actually be part of the live program tomorrow. So be sure and check in, check it out. You don't check in with me. Check it out 24 hours from now. The link is right below. And I mentioned at the top of the show, there are certain talks that I do that I have pretty much memorized. And I might remember like 70% of it, or by the time I'm doing a talk, I remember 110% of it. I remember every single kind of rhythm to it. And of course, that comes with practice. For me, when I get a new keynote opportunity and it's like a month away, a few months away, whatever, then I immediately start writing down ideas. And this is where, again, the index cards come into play, which I've talked about a lot on this show. And I'll take the index cards and write down the high levels of what I want to talk about. And then I'll start practicing the talk, even with just the raw material, almost like raw cookie dough. And I'll just work with the raw material and keep working it and working it and working it. And then as I'm saying it out loud, and it used to be in my closet, now we have a slightly bigger house. Thankful for all the space that's here in Las Vegas. You can have a bigger place. And so I'll do it in my garage. My kids and my wife are used to that. And I'll just practice the talk. Sometimes I'll record myself on my iPhone, just using the basic apps, nothing fancy. And they just keep going through it and going through it and going through it and getting a feel for it. And then there'll be certain insights where they'll just come out of my mouth and be like, oh, I like that turn of phrase. And I'll write that down. And then I'll oscillate, go back and forth between practicing. And then I'm like, oh, I need to write that down. Quite flow right and going back to it. By the time I do a keynote, I usually have practiced it 4 dozen times. So like 40, 50 times maybe. And it's just, and maybe not all the way through. Maybe it's just the intro and I keep going. And then I get to 15, because usually the keynote's like 45 minutes. I'll get 15 minutes into it and be like, wait, this isn't quite, I need to rework this, and I'll go back. But it's a few dozen times of going back and forth. So by the time you see me on stage, by the time you and I meet virtually, in the interwebs, by the time you see me on a call or whatever, then I'm not worried about what the next word is going to be, because I already memorized the talk. And so my main job then is to focus on cadence, focus on flow, focus on the reactions from the audience. You might have dealt with this if you did any type of public speaking, where you have something you want to say, you have a certain speech in mind, and then someone says something, and it could be towards you, it could be noise in the back. They could actually, which just happened in a few keynotes, say stuff from the audience and straight up ask questions. And I've been able to ask those questions over time. It's a learned skill. Ask those questions and then get right back on track. I recommend the practice method, because you don't want to be on stage or doing your speech or whatever and then trying to remember what the next word is. What you want to do is practice it, if you can, enough so that it'll be like muscle memory. In fact, this might be the best tip after show don't tell. But that's why I get prepared for my keynotes. And it's worked really well for me. My audience seems to appreciate it because I don't come with any notes. So I'm just speaking. I have a strong memory in that particular way. That's a strength of mine. If my wife asks me to get 4 things from the store, I'm probably going to remember 3 of them. And then I have to text her and call her and be like, what's the 4th thing? But me memorizing an hour-long speech, I'm used to that muscle. Sorry, wifey. But there's whatever your particular strength is, lean into that. My strength is I have good long-term memory. And so that's what I lean into. Maybe you have a different strength. Maybe you're really good at improvising, which I wouldn't recommend too much because I can get into dangerous territory. But if you end up being in those tough situations, then you can be very agile, and that allows you to adjust properly. So if you can keep practicing doing your public speaking, even joining a thing called Toastmasters, which is I think it's international now, which allows you to practice your speeches. Some people have been really into that. Toastmasters wasn't quite my thing, but there are some other organizations that have helped quite a bit and give good insight on things. One organization I would recommend is the National Speakers Association. They're, excuse me, big inhale there. They're professional speakers, and so they are that particular level. But you can join as, I believe it's the associate level if you're not quite at the pro level. There's also programming, depending on your local association. It might even be free programming. And particularly nowadays, it might even be on Zoom. So you don't even have to like get out of your pajamas and just learn how the pros do it, right? Each of the professional speakers have their own particular type of skill set. The stuff I'm talking about today has worked for me, but there might be another speaker out there who makes a living at it, who knocks out the park every time, but their method is completely different than mine, and it might be closer to what would fit your personality. So I'd say dip your toes into that, figure out what's going on. If you want to take it to a professional level, definitely go ahead and check them out. Also, Heroic Public Speaking, I mentioned them at the top of the show. And so I actually do some coaching with them. Heroic Public Speaking is pretty cool because they have particularly have something called HPS, Heroic Public Speaking Grad, which is a multi-week program that allows you to work on your particular keynote or TED Talk with coaches. I'm one of the coaches, as well as other folks that will help it get into shape. And then they're actually based in I'd say the center of New Jersey, because I'm from Atlantic City. So it's kind of in that space between Atlantic City and Newark. So they're kind of in that in between space, probably about an hour and a half from Philly. I think it's called Lambertville. Um, and so over at Lambertville, they have the stage set up. And when you're part of HBS Grad, you actually fly there and they get a chance to do your keynote and or TED Talk on the stage and getting feedback from the professional speakers, including Michael Port, who was a very well-known public speaker before he decided to pivot over to teaching. So really good program. I'm absolutely biased because I do work with them, but there's few programs out there that have that type of rigor and discipline from these different areas. And some of the stuff I'm talking about is some of the game that I brought along to HPS as well. So that's actually the best way that you can work with public speaking, I believe, is to focus on showing, not telling, to make sure you practice what you're saying a lot. And lastly, which is kind of the second point, is to recognize that the audience actually wants you to win. They're rooting for you. If somebody goes to a comedy club, they want to laugh. So if you can make them laugh, that will make them happy. If someone's going to motivational speech, they're going to be motivated. So if you can motivate them, they'll be a happy camper. Your job is to serve the audience. If you serve the audience, then chances are you're going to do absolutely fine with whatever public speaking you do.